The left's fury over the end of DEI gerrymandering. Let's check it out. And welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. The Supreme Court's decision ending race-based gerrymandering has left the party, the Democrat Party, desperately looking for a new scheme to make up for the loss of possibly more than a dozen congressional seats that they never should have had in the first place. The court's decision refocuses our country on healthy racial discourse, one that both continues to demand no discrimination based on race at all, but also, based on that initial demand, outlaws reverse discrimination as well. For years, this country only made good on the first part of that two-part equation. Our system held no discrimination against people of color, yet for years it allowed discrimination the other way, creating what we know as DEI in school admissions, in hiring for jobs, and yes, in congressional districts as well. All of that is ending at the same time. It's been a big year. An essential Democrat Party power grift is ending, and the response is exactly as you would expect.
And a new generation of Americans have to show up, stand up, speak up, fight, get into good trouble to usher in an era of progress. We went from the progress of emancipation to the backlash of Jim Crow, the progress of the civil rights movement to the backlash of mass incarceration, the progress of electing Barack Obama to the backlash that has resulted in the elevation of Donald Trump, MAGA extremism, and this behavior that we're seeing coming out of the Supreme Court of the United States to throw the American South back into the Jim Crow era.
Jim Crow, emancipation, Hakeem Jeffries there using all the hype words that he can think of to motivate a constituency that's actually been enslaved to a failing party's race grift for far too long in this country. The truth is, without racial victimhood, the Democrat Party loses its most valuable demographic, and that is the black American. If you want to know why we can never seem to get over race, it's because they're not letting us. Last week, Tennessee redistricted, removing the state's one blue district, that's Memphis, an extremely poor, dangerous city and congressional district represented by an old white man. The reaction inside the State House was predictable. State Rep Justin Pearson, who's gotten famous for pretending it's 60 years ago and he is a civil rights leader, screaming at white police officers as they escorted his friend out of the chamber for protesting, and then, of course, running to cable news for even more.
What we saw yesterday in the state of Tennessee was a political lynching. It is very much an era of retribution that we are entering into in the United States of America across the South, where 12 to 20 United States House seats that are black majority are at risk of being taken away, and nearly 200 seats for state House members and state Senate members are likely to be taken away by the rise of white supremacy and its attempt to solidify its power on behalf of the biggest white supremacist in the United States of America, which is the President of the United States. What just happened in Tennessee was the largest and the most swift disenfranchisement of black people that we have seen in at least a century.
At least a century. In at least a century. Man, how distorted this country has become listening to people like that. We have race grifters working to ensure that racism never dies, even as it disappears before our very eyes. Social justice warriors who try to equate the end of a ridiculous perversion of the Voting Rights Act with a time where we saw actual discrimination. By the way, that's what that young man looks like on stage. He is an actor, very little more. Because why do they do this? Well, it's easier than confronting the actual issues that face the black community, most of which are exacerbated by the party claiming to be fighting the problem. That's the truth. If Americans realized that institutional racism was actually dead, realized the truth that they're all trying to conceal from you, we'd suddenly have a lot more questions for the political party that represents 90% of black Americans. You'd have a lot of questions. If it suddenly wasn't an institutional problem, it'd be a different problem, and they don't want to answer those questions. So many completely oblivious to this that their blind loyalty to the Democrat Party in many ways has left their community in worse condition than it was in the 1950s. And that's not an exaggeration. Take a look at it sometime. 60 Minutes interviewing black Democrat voters the state of Louisiana while covering the Supreme Court's decision. Here's how they sounded.
At the end of the day, it's going to dilute the black vote. That's the whole purpose. This Republican Congress is all about making America Jim Crow again. There's no more check and balances. Everything that was there to guard against this type of gerrymandering is destroyed. So there's nobody to stop the train.
Can you separate politics from race in this district?
No.
We've come a long ways, but not with this when it comes to race and not with the schemes that they're putting up before us.
A lot of brainwashed people in this country. We've had a black president elected twice. We have 67 black members of Congress, including 5 senators who have achieved statewide leadership without a diversity supplement like the VRA. Beyond that, does anybody actually believe that this long committed perversion of the Voting Rights Act actually benefited black Americans in any way at all? Is there any indication or proof of that? Just having somebody the same color as you represent your district? Does that help in any way? All it really did was prop up weaker candidates, is the truth, whatever color they might be, and some of them in many cases are white. Look at Steve Cohen in Memphis, who I just mentioned. It simply guaranteed Democrat districts. It did not necessarily guarantee a black district, and that's why there's so much anger over this. It's not because of race, it's because of power. They don't get this mad over race. They get this mad when they start losing their power. And now a furious Democrat Party flirting with some very extreme ideas to try and get even for this, like openly now discussing ending the filibuster when they get power back and packing that Supreme Court that they hate so much.
We are going to have to explore massive judicial reform, state by state and at the federal level, and everything should be on the table.
The Supreme Court desperately needs reform. It is a corrupt court, and in my opinion, it is a court that needs reform.
This is a very straightforward constitutional amendment to really address that confidence crisis that we're facing with the Supreme Court right now. This is a proposal that will cap all terms to 18 years.
This is an irredeemably corrupt Supreme Court that cannot be reformed through normal measures. It can only be reformed by adding 4 more members.
This is why Trump has been pushing to kill the filibuster now and just pass some serious legislation, because in Washington it is an open secret that the moment that Democrats get power back, they're going to do this themselves. Endless fury over the end of the race grift at the Supreme Court level, making some big decisions. Alex Marlow is the editor of Breitbart. Dr. Carol Swain, former tenured professor at Princeton and Vanderbilt. Good to have you both on. Dr. Swain, want to play James Clyburn, South Carolina congressman, who may end up losing his seat over this. Take a listen.
Schumer, he called the Supreme Court's decision to weaken the Voting Rights Act, as it were, quote, another step towards resurrecting the Jim Crow South. Georgia Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock said it was a, quote, 21st century version of Jim Crow in new clothes. Do you agree?
Absolutely, I agree. So much so that I've been saying this now for the last 4 or 5 years.
It's Jim Crow to end the gerrymandering of congressional districts based on race. Dr. Swain, your answer to that.
Well, what troubles me the most is the level of ignorance among the people speaking. I know of Carville, he's deliberately misleading people. But when you played the clips of the black voters who believe that the Republicans are out to get them, it's Jim Crow all over again, it's just pure manipulation and deception, because what the court has done is actually stand up for the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. The Voting Rights Act was passed to ensure that black people had the right to vote. It was there to end discrimination, not to guarantee the election of a particular race of candidate. And I can also tell you that the Supreme Court in the 1990s, it struck down race-based gerrymanders. It did not affect the number of blacks in Congress. They got elected. And in the Democratic Party, it's been shown over and over again in America that black people who are qualified can get elected to office. They don't need gerrymandered districts.
They don't. They don't. And Alex, it's so interesting because what this was an overcompensation for the years of racism in the past. We overcompensated with this, whatever this corruption of the VRA was that we implemented for all of these years. Now taking it back, and you've got like Justin Pearson in Tennessee calling it the most racist thing that he's seen in 100 years. It's a total distortion of reality.
What's interesting is that what Pearson is doing is he's doing the bidding of white socialists. If you really look at the history of the Black Lives Matter movement, which still goes on today, a lot of it was quarterbacked by white socialists. Look up a guy named Eric Mann when you have a little bit of time, because he understands that you can move blocks of voters if you isolate them by race. And we have a Democrat Party that is not pandering to blacks, it's belittling them. We saw AOC claim that Black Americans invented democracy. I believe the Greeks would like to have a word on that one. But the fact that she thinks Black Americans will buy that, ask Dr. Swain, I don't think they will. I think that they have to see through this at a big level, and we need to see some sort of a major pushback. It's a big opportunity for us on the right.
Yeah, I mean, and Dr. Swain, speak to that a little bit, in regards to that that young kid that's a state rep in Tennessee, very upset because he's not going to be able to primary Steve Cohen in Memphis. But you had a young man, he was a nice, respectable young man at one point. He kind of made a turn, and now he's very much radicalized by a lot of those ideologies that are so toxic in this country.
Well, before I left Vanderbilt and I retired in 2017, I know that there were some courses being taught in the divinity school on protest. And I thought that was so odd. And when I look at Justin Pearson, it seems to me that he's trying to become the new Jesse Jackson. He has the Jesse Jackson afro. And he is clearly, he's created, this personality that the media loves, and he's going to go as far as he can on that personality. Meanwhile, the Democrats, their entire strategy depends on deceiving the voters. It depends on voter ignorance. And there are lots of people, I would say, maybe in both political parties that really don't understand, redistricting and the Voting Rights Act, because they've taken away history out of our education.
Exactly.
But the Voting Rights Act was needed. It accomplished its purpose. And it was never there to ensure proportional representation on the basis of race. Blacks can win office when they build coalitions, and whites can win, and other groups. They have to build coalitions. That's the American way.
Yeah, they've corrupted something, and then when they remove it, it's being called a racist move to remove something that should have never existed in the first place. If you actually read and understand what the Voting Rights Act was, what it looked to accomplish, this was a corruption of it that nobody said anything for a long time because we have a tremendous amount of guilt in this country for very obvious reasons. Dr. Swain, we appreciate it. Good to have you on. Alex Marlow, good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, Louisiana Congresswoman Julia Letlow joins us now. The Supreme Court's decision to throw out her state's map at the center, of course, of all of this. Congresswoman, good to have you on. I want to play your governor on 60 Minutes from last night.
In the United States, we get equal rights. No one gets extra rights. You cannot say that we are all created equal and that states must treat everyone equal under the law and then allow a law to sort people based upon race. We're still trying to find some sliver of discrimination in race.
I think a lot of people would say you don't have to try to find it, it's there.
I would say that you find that it would reside in people's hearts, not in their laws.
So the big complaint is that in your state that Black Americans in Louisiana are going to have less rights than they had prior to this ruling, which I think is so outrageous to think that way, and shows just such a racial dysfunction that we've had in this country that we've let to be had for quite a while now. What's your reaction to that?
Well, first, I'm so proud that the Supreme Court did the right thing and ruled that you can no longer draw districts based solely on race. I've run for Congress 3 times now, and every time I've had to run in a different district because it was litigated that way for me. So I am so glad that the Supreme Court finally has a ruling on this so that the state legislature can do their job and draw fair maps for Louisiana.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you think it took so long for this country to recognize just how toxic this was, the race-based gerrymandering we've seen throughout many states in this country?
I have no idea why it took so long, but again, I'm so grateful that the Supreme Court finally came to a conclusion and gave us the guidance that we needed. This has been so divisive for Louisiana, neighbor to neighbor, and I'm so grateful that now we have the confirmation going forward that we're going to draw fair maps that are based on real things that people care about instead of solely based on race. It was the wrong thing to do for years and years, and I'm so grateful that the Supreme Court finally laid it to rest.
Yeah, I want to get to this. Your primary is coming up on this Saturday. You're one of the Republicans running against Senator Bill Cassidy. The president has endorsed you, which is huge. Tell us why you think your state needs a different Republican senator.
Well, I am so grateful to have the president's encouragement and endorsement to jump into this race. There's no greater endorsement in the world, and Louisiana knows that. They know that they need a senator who will fight for them and work with President Trump, not against him. And that is something that they did not find in Senator Cassidy. But they can rest assured that I always remember who I represent, and that's the people of Louisiana. And again, this is not my seat; it's the people's seat, and I'll have that ever before me. And every decision I make and every vote that I take, I'll never forget that.
Love that. Congresswoman Letlow, good luck and thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up here, the Spencer Pratt Show, forcing candidates for mayor to race toward common sense.
So you no longer believe in defunding the police?
No.
Ah, okay. And then later in News from the Left, Australia is showing signs of woke fatigue.
The 47th President of the United States of America.
And, I wouldn't say Fox has been exactly perfect. Fox has been a big difference of Fox between now and what it was 4 years ago, as you know. But we have others that come along, and they're doing well, and Newsmax has been really good, and, others are coming along. And people are seeing that they're watching these conservative networks.
President Trump is right. That's why millions of Americans are tuning into Newsmax for the real news they can trust.
Like a relentless weed, moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms can keep coming back.
Break away to what's possible with Tremfya.
The only IL-23 blocker for Crohn's and UC to offer self-administration from the start.
Tremfya can help with symptom relief as early as 4 weeks, remission at 12 weeks, 1 year, and 2 years.
Some had visible repair of their intestinal lining. Serious allergic reactions, increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them, and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or need a vaccine. Break away with Tremfya.
Backed by over 15 years of clinical research. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
As a neurologist, my patients are often concerned with age-related memory decline. I recommend Cunol Brain Health with 2 powerful, high-absorption ingredients clinically shown to improve memory, focus, attention, and more. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
At Bright Star Care, our nurse-led care anticipates needs before they are voiced. We'll be there.
Everyone wants change. Again, Bass has not changed. Councilwoman Robin is actually a worse change. The combined, I think that's 10 years these two have been in the city. and nobody feels safe. Mayor Bass has the worst record in LA history. We've already been doing the socialist experiment pretty much for 6+ years, and it's failed here in Los Angeles. I'm standing in what happened because of failed politicians.
All right, I love this race for mayor in Los Angeles, and losing his home to pure incompetence has sent Spencer Pratt, a former reality star, on a political rampage that is so enjoyable to watch. And after last week's debate, he is surging in the polls. But the communist current mayor, Karen Bass, still is in the lead, of course, and LA unions have grouped together and reportedly spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to create an ad campaign that is so ridiculous and out of touch, it's actually hard to believe it's even real, but it is. Take a look.
Republican Spencer Pratt is the last thing Los Angeles needs for mayor. Pratt opposes using taxpayer money to build brand new houses for our unhoused neighbors. Pratt thinks LA needs thousands more police officers rather than more social workers. And Republican Spencer Pratt thinks public employee unions should have less power.
He doesn't want to spend public funds to house our unhoused neighbors, the euphemism of the year. He doesn't want unions to be more powerful in California. How outrageous. You'd think that's like Babylon Bee, right? I'm still not convinced that it's not, but I'm told that it's not. Pratt is now forcing his opponents to backtrack on their past idiocy as well, which has been another fun part of this experiment of him actually running and finding success and finding common sense people in LA that support him. Councilwoman Nithya Raman, who is hands down the worst candidate in this race, with an extremely awkward moment after last week's debate.
I want to have an honest conversation about public safety. I want to make sure we're paying our city workforce well. I want to make sure we're maintaining our police force and expanding other kinds of responses to calls for help from people.
So you no longer believe in defunding the police?
No.
No. Jillian's already laughing. Jillian Michaels is the host of the Keeping It Real podcast. You live in this place, and God bless you for it, because I know how hard it is. I was there for a few years myself. It's gotten somehow crazier, but the fact that that is running for mayor is just so mind-boggling, and they finally got her to admit that all those tweets and all that nonsense, all that noise she made years ago about defunding the police was just chaos.
That was my favorite part of that entire clip, the words, no longer. And it's like, no. Well, geez, I wonder why. Is it because 3 people got stabbed outside of a Whole Foods in Venice, Los Angeles? I mean, could that be why? Because crime is rampant. Homelessness is out of control. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. It's embarrassing for me to watch that, for her.
It's so well, and you know what's really embarrassing is that it's taken this much to get these people to admit that they're psychotic. And I mean, you're looking at this city, and it's like, did you see the ad that Pratt put out where it's like LA's like perfect and people are talking about how amazing it could be and stuff like that? That really is how it should be. And what's incredible is that they've gotten somehow the people of that city to accept that it is as bad as it is and there's nothing that can be done, that there's not a coalition stronger to say, I mean, I don't know how Pratt doesn't have 80% support.
I can't wrap my head around that as well. I cannot figure out why people are not literally ejecting Karen Bass. I don't know if you saw the clip of her recently saying that while she is responsible for the fire, it's because of unprecedented climate change. And all I could think was, does everybody forget that the reservoir uphill from the Palisades was empty for a year and a half, or the fact that she defunded the fire department despite them warning her that they were woefully unprepared and underfunded by $17 million before that last fire in the Palisades? The list is so long of all of her negligence and all of her incompetence and all of her lies. I have to believe that Californians do know this. They're just afraid to say it out loud because of the consequences in California, and that they will vote properly in Los Angeles for Spencer Pratt. I am praying.
That's what I think. That's what I think, too. You know, I saw a tweet from Doug Ellen, the guy that produced Entourage, which is an iconic Los Angeles show. And, he just put out there that Karen Bass should not be running this city any longer, but he wouldn't say anything else. And that, to me, is so indicative of the problem, is that you just can't say what you really mean, which is that Pratt, now. He's just, well, it shouldn't be Karen Bass. Everybody's terrified because as soon as you label somebody MAGA, which is all they say about Spencer Pratt, even though he's not.
That's right.
As soon as you label him that, he's toxic, you can't vote for him.
In fact, the top pejorative in that ad that you just ran is they're like, Spencer Pratt is a Republican. He's running as an independent, actually. Yeah. But God forbid he was a Republican, like the ultimate deplorable. And ironically, California voted 38% Republican for Donald Trump in the last election. That's a heck of a lot of people for that state. Says a lot.
It is. I love watching this young man do his thing, and I hope for your sake that somebody can come in there and clean, because that was such a great town. When I lived there, I mean, they hadn't fully destroyed it yet. I was there in like 2008. And it was a lot of fun. And every time I go back, I'm disappointed by what I see.
It gets worse and worse, but the people are aware of it. So hopefully, they might be staying silent publicly, but hopefully privately, they make a change with their vote.
We vote in a quiet little booth, and you got to love that part of it. Good to have you, Jillian Michaels, always.
Thanks for having me.
All right. President says the Iran ceasefire is on life support. What should the next move be? Retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt up next. Plus, we've got the Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, on ways to cut the costs of this war.
A new president is sworn in. America's greatness is restored. Millions of Americans are tuning in to Newsmax. Even President Trump says Newsmax is terrific. Watch Newsmax or download our free app on your TV or phone today.
The first day back from maternity leave is so weird. We get it. Find a caregiver who does too. When it's not you, it's care.com.
He's breathing. Okay, go again.
Nearly 5,000 people die from choking each year. That's frightening. I'm Dr. Ben Carson.
And I'm Arthur Lee. But there are ways to help prevent choking. Accidents do happen. That's why I invented the Life Pack.
Anyone can use this device, and it can save a life in seconds.
Just place, push, and pull. It's that simple. Please order one for your home, office, car, anywhere you eat.
Go to lifehack.net or call 877-543-3822.
Stop. Check this out. Our most advanced performance frame, Talon, is out. It's a bestseller. We just got it back in stock, and I want to show you a little bit about it. This frame is an 8-base wrap, so it's going to sit close to your face, give you wide peripheral vision, stay on tight, but it also has a squared off lens for a versatile everyday look. And then you have comfort fit adjustable rubber nose pads for secure fit as well. These come with our signature lost and broken protection, and you can try them risk-free for 30 days. Check them out at shadyrays.com.
Relay gives us visibility into not just the amount of money we have, but the work that it's doing, and it gives us something to build toward.
It's a game changer for me. Over time with Relay, it made everything much easier.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
This is Fubo. It's your way to watch ESPN and other top sports networks. Plus, get coverage of your local teams all year long. Start watching at FuboTV.com.
What's gold is new again, pardon the pun. But considering gold has been used as currency since around 550 BC, it has been on fire the past year. I'm here with Daniel Boston, the founder of Preserve Gold. Why is gold so stable and such a good investment for many people?
Take the central bank, for example, the Federal Reserve. They print money out of thin air, and then they take that printed money to go buy hard assets like gold to protect themselves against the very risks that they're creating. So I always tell people, don't do what the big players are telling you to do. Do what they're doing themselves.
Yeah, watch what they're doing.
That's correct.
Okay. If people are interested in investing with preserved gold, how do they get started?
Text Newsmax to 50505 to get your free information and up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. That's right. Text Newsmax to 50505.
All right. No way you can miss it.
After reading that piece of garbage they sent us, I didn't even finish reading it. They said, I'm not going to waste my time reading it. I would say it's one of the weakest right now. It's on life support. I would say the ceasefire is on massive life support, where the doctor walks in and says, sir, your loved one has approximately a 1% chance of living.
Okay. Well, it's about 3 a.m. in Iran right now. Just know that. The Iran ceasefire on life support, the president says, this coming after Trump wrote about Iran's response to his peaceful proposal over the weekend, his peace proposal. I have just read the response from Iran's so-called representatives. I don't like it. Said totally unacceptable, telling CBS News it was just a bad proposal, stupid, actually done by people that have no clue as to the danger that they are in. Very stupid proposal, badly written, badly delivered as well. Trump says Iran would use a nuke within an hour if they ever got one. He did say, though, that the regime has capitulated to him over the weekend on one issue, though. Take a look.
Very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They can't have it. Iran told me very strongly, because they intend to give us the nuclear dust, as I call it. They told me, number one, you're getting it, but you're going to have to take it out because the site was so obliterated that there's only 1 or 2 countries in the world that could get it. I say, you people are crazy. I deal with them. They talk differently. I say, you're crazy. You're crazy people. You're nuts. You're not having a nuclear weapon. They think they can talk me into it, and they don't do very well with it. They would use it within an hour after getting it.
Blaine Holt, retired Brigadier General, back with us to talk it over. All right, so the ceasefire is on life support. That means something's about to happen. What do you think should happen next? Where do we go, and how do we get out of this thing?
Yeah, so we've got 3 main lines of effort as far as the Iranian part goes. One, we want those straits open. We need that for world commerce. We can do that. Scott Bessent is working on that with Lloyd's of London and all of the other ones trying to financially block the straits. Two, we've got to secure Karg Island now. The Iranians are dumping oil into the water to keep their oil wells healthy, and we want them healthy for the free Iranian people. 3, the regime's got to go. There's not going to be any nuclear weapons. There was never going to be that. And 4, which I didn't list before, is Xi Jinping and President Trump have to have a sit down, plot this out, get aligned, and we won't even know that they are aligned, but that will signify what's to come to get this thing off ramp.
So he goes to China at the end of this week. Do you think that they're waiting to see how this meeting with Xi Jinping goes, and then they're going to make a decision on how they're going to handle the rest of Iran?
Absolutely, I do. The Chinese have every reason to orphan the Iranians and go to the new regime because there's nothing left of them. They just want assurances from President Trump that we're going to be able to work together to satisfy China's legitimate energy needs at a fair price while we rebuild Iran and put a free Iran together. But the IRGC is going at these civilian leaders and them at the other, and they're all broke. Yeah. And it won't be very long before the Iranian people take it into their own hands.
So we might see some moves toward the end of the week after this meeting. You say they got to get the strait open. I agree with that. Hopefully that's one of the first lists on the priority because it's not going to move much. The oil price is not going to move much without it. I wanted to throw this at you really quick. Victoria Nuland was a major foreign policy player under Obama and Biden. Her husband writing in The Atlantic, checkmate in Iran. Washington can't reverse or control the consequences of losing this war. He says the Strait of Hormuz is gone to us. Iran is emerging as a key player in the region and one of the key players in the world. Your reaction to that from Robert Kagan, the husband of Victoria Nuland?
Yeah, they're the neocon royal family right there. Look, they want these things to happen. They are the progenitors of color revolutions, but I don't think they truly understand President Trump's end vision, which is a demilitarized foreign policy. Ooh, bad for neocons, and that we can pull our troops back and actually have an Abraham Accords that is based on economic dependence upon multicultures in a region. And that's the end state. That's not a Kagan end state. That's not what they're looking for.
That's interesting. Yeah. I thought you might have a reaction to that. Blaine Holt, good to see you. Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
All right, so the price of this war for Americans has been felt mostly through oil and the price of gas. Oil closing at just under $100 today. For some relief, the administration is now dipping into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, loaning energy companies 53 million barrels of oil, we are told. The president telling CBS News in a phone interview this morning he aims to suspend the federal gas tax for a period of time as well. But as CBS reports, suspending that excise tax, 18.4 cents per gallon on gas and 24.5 on diesel, does require an act of Congress. So to talk about all this, the Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, joins us now. Sir, good to have you on. I know energy is a big part of what you guys are thinking about as a consequence of this war. Let's talk about the gas tax. 18 cents a gallon when you're at $4 or $5. That's not a lot. That only ends up being about a few bucks off on a tank. How do we get these energy prices down?
Well, President Trump knows how to get energy prices down because when he came into office, we had some of the highest inflation and highest prices that this country had seen in decades. And quickly with his policies of energy dominance, which is produce more for prosperity at home and for peace abroad. And that's absolutely been working with the U.S. now, record oil production, record natural gas production, record LNG production. Yeah. And then also, of course, with Venezuela, you know, the big story is shifting the geopolitical center of oil and gas in that impact on the economy to the Western Hemisphere. And so unleashing American energy is happening. And when the Strait opens up, you're going to see these prices coming down and coming down significantly. And again, we know we have a leader that knows how to get lower prices. That's for sure.
I mean, we see the ships. I mean, we've seen the map that shows the ships moving, around Africa, coming here to pick up the oil and going back, and it's a delay. But we're watching that happen. We know we have Venezuela as well, but it does seem like until that Strait of Hormuz is open, that we're destined to sit in this region of fuel prices right around in here, which is quite expensive. Is there any indication that there's a move being made soon to get that strait open? Because we had a delay here for the last week or two.
Well, yes, and I think, again, just confident that our commander-in-chief is also the deal maker-in-chief, that he's going to strike a deal to meet the objectives that we set out here. And of course, again, essentially Iran is now the IRGC. We're down to a sanctioned terrorist group. The IRGC is the one that's trying to control the strait. This is a situation where the whole world has to stand up, because we can't have one terror group controlling this kind of flow of energy, which goes to countries all over the world. And so, again, the U.S. taking the lead, but I think you're going to see, again, with the international coalition of folks coming together, I think we're going to see the strait open because we can't have one terror group controlling the price of energy for the whole world.
Understood. I got one final question for you before I let you go really quick. On Venezuela, a country that's pretty much under our thumb at this point, the president talking about making it the 51st state of this country. I assume he's saying that in jest, that he's not terribly serious about that. But how important is that relationship, and how prosperous has it been for us so far with Venezuela?
Well, everything that President Trump promised back on January 3rd is coming true. This is a country, again, last week you saw the news, commercial flights reestablished between Miami and Caracas for the first time in decades. And we've got energy executives, we've got citizens going home for family reunions. We have got the not just oil and gas, but also critical minerals and mining. The amount of investment that is coming in there. And of course, when I had an opportunity to go down there and meet with the Venezuelan leadership, they are working to make sure that they are open for business. They understand that they've got to compete for capital with the rest of the world. Yep. And what a resource, larger resources than Saudi Arabia in terms of their oil and gas reserves. And all of that is destined just to be coming through the Gulf of America to the refineries here. That's another reason why we can be assured the U.S. is going to have the most secure and the lowest energy prices in the world coming out of the backside of this. And of course, President Trump sets expectations high, because we took an adversary in Venezuela and in 45 minutes turned him into a strategic ally. I mean, how do you take a sanctioned adversary? Only President Trump.
Geopolitically, yeah, it was geopolitical brilliance, especially in the wake of this war, to get Venezuelan oil coming here instead of to China and to other places, other adversarial nations. Doug Burgum, the Interior Secretary, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Always great to be with you.
All right, good to see you. Here in New York, a woman is attacked and refuses to cooperate with the investigation because she, quote, didn't want another black man in jail. That's a real story, and that man has now been charged with a very brutal killing just after that attack occurred. The cost of suicidal empathy is up next.
When you're in the news business, it never stops. News is always breaking, and it's my job to get you the news, no spin, no BS. If you don't believe us, just watch us.
Watch Finnerty, weeknights, only on Newsmax.
Is it just the mustache? No. It's the way he brings me a fresh cup of Black Rifle coffee.
Honey, you having a Riley Green dream again?
Just give me 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Yep, that's there. Is the gauge supposed to say empty? You can't trust those things. Don't worry, we're tethered for safety.
Asking the right question can greatly impact your future.
Are you certified for this? Technically, no.
Especially when it comes to your finances.
Do you have a question?
Are you a certified financial planner?
Yes, I'm a CFP professional.
CFP professionals are committed to acting in your best interest. That's why it's gotta be a CFP. Find your CFP professional at letsmakeaplan.org.
Doctors say having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care and pharmacy at home. Let me bring in Dr. McCullough to explain more.
Most people know when they're getting sick, but waiting to see a doctor is often too late.
So the key is having medicines before you need them.
Yes, and it includes doctor-prescribed medicines to treat common and serious issues like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, antibiotics, antivirals for flu, pneumonia, strep, ear and sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
So it is like having an urgent care at home.
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications and hospitalizations.
How do you know what to take?
Just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Great advice. I understand ordering is fast online, and we've put the website and $45 off code on the screen. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
My dad has never been in better shape. He had a stroke and passed away. He had a life insurance policy. Ethos.com. In 10 minutes, you can be covered with life insurance.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
This Memorial Day, we honor the brave who stood watch over our nation's security. At PC-Matic, we're proud to continue that legacy by protecting your digital world. From American homes and local businesses to our nation's government agencies, we provide the only cybersecurity that's 100% researched, developed, and supported right here in the USA. PC-Matic, American made, American strong. Visit PCMatic.com today.
Spring. It's time to run it. Run it until the grass becomes a lawn, until the hedges duck and cover. Then, run it again.
The pain is gone. It's gone. I was wheeled in. I couldn't even move 5 feet without the wheelchair. I was in awful pain.
Are you able to get onto the bed?
I doubt it.
No?
We went through the whole intake interview, did the MRI, x-rays. I was awake through the surgery, came back to recovery. I was there for 10 minutes, and I got up and I walked.
Bonatti succeeds where others fail.
All right, welcome back. Here in New York, another example of left-wing empathy resulting in a clear tragedy. 76-year-old retired teacher Ross Falzone was killed recently, attacked and thrown down the steps of a subway station by a psychopath. The video is awful. The accused killer right there, 32-year-old repeat offender Ramel Burke, smiling in the courtroom this weekend. Probably had a judge that loved him. His defense attorney asking for psychiatric care. Police say he was released from the psych ward the same day that he killed that teacher, Falzone. The New York Post, Miranda Devine, revealing in her reporting that a liberal New York woman who refused to cooperate with prosecutors after Burke attacked her on a subway station just a few weeks before he allegedly killed Falzone. That 23-year-old woman saying, maybe part of me was just like, I don't want to put another black man in jail. And now because she didn't cooperate, that man went out and killed somebody else. New York City Councilwoman Vickie Paladino joins us now. Scott Lobaido is a New York-based artist and activist. Good to have you both here. Scott, I'll start with you. I can't fathom what it feels like to be that young woman right now, but she's learned probably a hell of a lesson.
Yeah, her life is going to change, and I'm sorry, it's going to suck for her for the rest of her life because she pretty much caused this, and that's the mentality. I mean, I could just rattle off a couple of names. This is what the city has become. We've become so numb to the insanity. Debrina Kawam. Anybody remember her? Anybody? No. The woman that was set on fire in the subway. Right. How we become so numb to that. Richard Williams, the 83-year-old Air Force veteran who was pushed on the train tracks and died a couple of weeks later. This guy survived cancer. He survived the fire. He survived the battle in war, and he get pushed in front of a train. Brian Thompson, Luigi, the guy that shot Brian. Yeah. I mean, we become so numb to this because two reasons. We become numb to it, and there's no punishment. So we're so used to it. We are so used to these criminals. This guy's smiling. You saw that horrible pic. Did you see the video of him pushing her down? That man, that teacher down.
He flings an old man
steps,
down
an old
the
man.
stairs. Yeah.
I think of my father, 83 years old, if that happened, and there's no accountability. There's zero accountability. And that's what we've become.
Vickie,
that's what this society has become.
Vickie, it's infuriating, and it's so sad to see people so warped in their mind by all of these ideologies in their head that when she gets assaulted on a subway station, she doesn't call the cops. She'd rather him be out there to do it to somebody else. That would make her feel better.
I don't think, you brought up before, Rob, good evening, both of you. You brought up before about how she's going to feel bad. This woman isn't going to feel bad at all because if she's drawn in the way she's been drawn in, these are the people, this is a young girl. What was she, 20 years old or somewhere around that age? These kids have been, to his point, Scotty's point, that she's been brainwashed. To my point, it's indoctrination. It's a numbing system. They've been taught this about black, white, the racism, the cards that are being played. And for her to say she didn't want to see another black man in jail, that is absolutely bizarre to me. Absolutely bizarre that should come out of a 20-year-old's mouth. Meanwhile, she was running from the train station for her life because, backtrack, he was coming after her. And she actually ran off the platform, up the steps, onto the street, where she called the police. The police came in, wanted to charge the guy, and then she says what she says. This is the sick mentality that is being drilled into our young people today. And it's starting at age 2, 3, and 4. We grew up, we didn't talk about black or white, right, Scott?
No.
Who talked about that? Nobody.
No.
Yeah.
And if you said the wrong thing, you got a smack in the face.
There you go. Final thoughts.
Just take that out for a second, this woke, crazy woman right there. Look at the issue. The issue is that there is no accountability. That's from the animal that did that in the street to the guy, Senator Mark Kelly. Mark Kelly, who just threw America under the bus. There's no accountability for his treasonous act. He just told the world that America is running out of ammunition. Right. So there's no accountability. That man should be hung for treason. I'm sorry I'm saying it, but it's the truth. But there is no accountability. There is no punishment for the crimes that are being committed, and we have become numb to it, and it is going to continue the burning of this dumpster fire. Let it burn.
And there's no asylums either for this one. That was clearly crazy as well. I got to leave it there, guys. Thanks so much, Scott Lobaido, Councilwoman Paladino. Good to have you both. All right, coming up here after the break, we're going to lighten it up here for a second. A California Democrat accused by her ex-staffers of some very weird and kinky behavior. Next in News from the Left.
You can join the Tunnel to Towers mission to do good by donating your car to today's veterans. Your car donation will help Gold Star families, as well as injured veterans, our first responders, and our homeless veterans. Donating your car is quick and simple. Any car is accepted, and we will pick up the car for free. Simply call 844-BRAVES.
By donating your car, you can make a real difference. You can do good.
I still love to surf, snowboard, and of course skate. So I take Cunol Magnesium to support my muscle and bone health. Cunol's high absorption magnesium glycinate helps me get the full benefits of magnesium. Cunol, the brand I trust.
My friends, I come to you today on behalf of the Jewish people in Ukraine whose lives have been completely destroyed. Family and loved ones brutally killed. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is inside of Ukraine, providing emergency food and supplies to tens of thousands of people. But the food crisis is growing for Jewish families and especially for the elderly.
I am shocked how many elderly people came here. They're afraid, and they realize now that there are more people than boxes.
For just $25, you can help rush an emergency food box to the elderly Jews in Ukraine. Many of them are hungry, frightened, and alone. Your gift helps provide critical food when it's needed most. Call or go online now.
The people of Ukraine are caught in the crosshairs of war. Many of these precious people are Holocaust survivors, elderly Jews who are sick and dying. They have no food, and we must reach them now before it's too late.
The world is in a war again. I am alone. I'm afraid of the bombs. I'm scared. I am old. There is no food.
Just $25 helps rush emergency food to elderly Jews in Ukraine who are in urgent need today. Please call, scan, or go online right now.
I will not starve. Thank you, good people.
We can be the hope to the Jewish people who are suffering in Ukraine. Your help is desperately needed now.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Use daily dermatologist-recommended Dermend and reduce the appearance of bruises. Get Dermend Moisturizing Bruise Cream in the first aid aisle.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
All right, welcome back. Time now for news from the left. Updating a story from last week, Chicago Democrat William Hall calling for Walgreens corporate to face charges because they shut down a Walgreens location in his district. It turns out that Walgreens drugstore lost more than $1 million last year, all stolen by that politician's constituents. One Walgreens executive saying theft at the store 16%, 4 times above the company average. Company trying to prevent theft of the location spent $400,000 a year on security guards in the store and still faced attacks on store employees and theft. And that, my friends, is when you shut down. And then you get a politician that wants to throw you in jail for that. Next up, in the United Kingdom, a transgender, non-binary migrant without the legal right to even work in the UK is a newly elected member of the left-wing Green Party of Scottish Parliament. Yes, take a listen.
My name is Dr. Q Manavanan. I am a transgender Tamil immigrant. My pronouns are they, them. I am, to some in this country, everything that the hateful despise, and I'm standing here as your MSP now with care. And this is what diversity looks like in power.
Is he really a doctor, or does he identify as a doctor? That's $1 million question. Where is he a doctor? Which country? And finally, this might be my favorite story of the day. Janet Conklin, a California Democrat running for Orange County Assessor, has been accused of making her former staffers grab her boobs. as well as using campaign funds for personal expenses. It's a real story. Conklin currently serving as a council member of the city of La Palma. Multiple former campaign staffers allege Conklin engaged in sexually inappropriate behavior in the workplace, including taking staffers' hands and placing them on her own breasts. There are worse crimes. One staffer recalling she was telling us about how her breasts were not real, adding she had no feeling in her nipples. And beyond those allegations, Conklin also, as I blush, has lost her party's endorsement as a result of complaints from her campaign staff that she repeatedly sought to use campaign contributions to pay for personal expenses. On a personal note, I'm moving to La Palma, California. Coming up next here after the break, my Hoosiers at the White House. A proud day.
Closed captioning is brought to you by MagnaLife Pain Relieving Foot Cream to target neuropathy symptoms.
The stabbing, burning pain in your feet is real. Here's what real customers have to say about MagnaLife Pain Relieving Foot Cream, the only thing that works for my diabetic neuropathy.
Available in foot care and diabetic aisles.
To the victor, go the spoils!
When Caesar Slots gives you a getaway, they go all the way. 2 tickets to a luxury Caribbean cruise. Download Caesar Slots for free now and get a chance to win a luxury cruise. Flights included. New winner every week.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed, and you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, you don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
Here's Chris Cunahan with the Leaf Filter Gutter Report.
From blizzards to downpours to windstorms or heat waves, no matter where you live, Leaf Filter keeps your gutters clog-free year-round. Schedule your free inspection today. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
Hey, it's Mark Lauder. My career's taken me from the State House to the White House, campaigns for mayor, all the way to President of the United States. I came to Newsmax to help our viewers get more than the headlines, beyond the spin. It's a perspective you'll only see on Newsmax.
Big news. Newsmax just went public on the New York Stock Exchange and listed on the big board. Millions of Americans like you are joining our news revolution. Reuters Institute says Newsmax is one of the top 12 news brands in America. 40 million Americans go to Newsmax all the time, and its audience grew 50% since the same time last year. Millions really are making the switch to Newsmax. If you want to be a Newsmax share owner, call your broker advisor or get more info at newsmaxinvest.com. Stand with Newsmax today for a strong America.
All right, finally tonight, the president welcoming my Indiana Hoosiers at the White House today. This was really cool. After winning the college football national championship, Hoosiers gifting Trump a custom jersey, signed football, and an IU helmet. Curt Cignetti, the coach there as well with his team. Everybody looking good. The star QB, though, the guy everybody wants to see, Fernando, couldn't make it. He was drafted first overall by the Las Vegas Raiders. The reason was not political at all. He even called the president to explain why he couldn't be there. It's like one of their busiest weeks. They're just kind of getting into it. In fact, a lot of the players had the same excuse. They couldn't make it for that because they all got drafted to the NFL. Here was the president with his explanation. Take a look.
If it is on the first day of OTAs, like I said, I'm on the bottom of the totem pole here. I got to prove myself. I can't miss practice. I don't have a calendar. But I just wouldn't, as a rookie, I don't think that's a good look. And I want to, try to best serve my teammates. And I don't know if that'd be accomplishing that goal.
Not the president, that's Fernando himself in his own words. And he is a hard-working young man, and he is a great kid. Finnerty's up next. I have to tell you, Rob Finnerty, I went to that school for 4 years. I never went to a football game because the team sucked that bad. And I lived across the street from the football stadium. But they'd win 2 games a year and now they're national champions.
Give me a glimpse into Rob Schmitt, the undergrad.
I don't think that's appropriate for this television
I
show.
imagine you were quite popular on campus because you were young Republicans and all that. You know what? Every time the president hosts something like this, that's like something for the library. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that jersey will go in the future Trump presidential library.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I always like that. I'm like, where do they put that? Rob, good to see you, my friend. We'll do it
Happy
tomorrow.
Monday.
Finnerty begins now.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.